Welcome to Monk's Temple. Thank you for being here. Take a moment, just a single moment, right where you are, and notice the simple act of breathing. The air enters, the air leaves. It's a rhythm so fundamental, so automatic, that we almost never give it a second thought. But it is the very pulse of our existence. And in this simple observation, we find the seed of today's entire exploration. Today, we aren't just going to talk about gratitude as a concept. We aren't going to treat it like an item on a self-help checklist. We are going to dismantle it, examine it, and then rebuild our understanding of it from the ground up. We're going to explore why, in the vast and often chaotic landscape of the human mind, gratitude is not just a nice quality to have, it is the bedrock, the very foundation upon which a life of meaning, peace, and resilience is built. The Buddha called gratitude, or Katannu, in the ancient Pali language, the mother of all good qualities. Think about that for a second. A mother. The source. The origin point. From gratitude, patience is born. From gratitude, kindness learns to walk. From gratitude, wisdom finds its voice. It is not merely a reaction to good fortune, it is a profound way of seeing the world. It is a cognitive lens, a filter through which the raw data of our lives is processed. And just like any lens, if it's smudged, dirty, or cracked, the picture we get is distorted. We end up living in a world of lack, of fear, of constant dissatisfaction. But when that lens is clean, polished by the simple practice of noticing and appreciating, the world reveals itself in its true, abundant, and interconnected glory. So, let's begin this journey together. Let's sit with this idea. Let's not rush. Let's take the long, scenic route through the landscape of a grateful heart. Let's start by understanding the problem that gratitude solves. Imagine for a moment you are walking through a dense forest. You have a backpack on, and in that backpack, you are carrying a heavy rock. This rock represents everything you feel is missing in your life. It's the promotion you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the health challenge you're facing, the money you don't have, the validation you crave from a parent or a partner. This rock is heavy. It weighs you down. Your shoulders ache, your back strains, and your entire focus is on the burden. You walk past beautiful streams, your eyes fixed on the ground. You feel the warm sun on your face, but you don't notice it because your mind is consumed by the weight you're carrying. You see other people walking through the forest, and they seem lighter, freer. You wonder what they have that you don't. This is the default setting of the untrained human mind. It's what modern psychology calls a scarcity mindset, and what Buddhist philosophy identified over 2 millennia ago as the root of our suffering. The mind is wired for survival. Its primary job is to scan the environment for threats and for what is missing. From an evolutionary standpoint, this made perfect sense. Our ancestors who were hyper-aware of where the next meal was coming from, or where a predator might be hiding, were the ones who lived to pass on their genes. They didn't have the luxury to stop and smell the roses, they were too busy looking for thorns. But here's the catch. That ancient survival mechanism is still running the show in our modern world. We aren't worried about saber-toothed tigers, but our minds have found new predators: social comparison, fear of missing out, anxiety about the future, regret about the past. The backpack hasn't disappeared, it's just filled with different kinds of rocks. And we carry it everywhere. We carry it into our homes, into our relationships, into our beds at night. We become so accustomed to the weight that we forget what it feels like to be without it. We mistake the burden for a normal part of life. A student once came to the monastery where I was staying. He was a young man, successful by all outward measures. He had a good job, a loving family, and his health. But his face was etched with worry. He told me, "I have everything I thought I wanted, but I feel empty. I feel like I'm constantly running on a treadmill, trying to get to the next thing, and I never arrive." He was describing the scarcity mindset perfectly. He was so focused on the next rung of the ladder, the future goal, the thing he didn't yet have, that he was completely blind to the solid ground he was already standing on. His backpack was full of the rocks of not enough. Not enough success, not enough security, not enough time. And that feeling of not enough was poisoning the enough that was already there. Gratitude is not about pretending the rocks aren't there. It's not about toxic positivity, where you smile and say everything is fine when your world is crumbling. That's a denial of reality, and Buddhism never asks us to deny reality. The path is about seeing reality clearly. Gratitude, in its truest sense, is the practice of gently taking the backpack off, setting it down for a moment, and looking around at the forest. It's the conscious act of noticing the sun on your skin, the sound of the stream, the vibrant green of the moss. It's acknowledging that while you carry rocks, you also walk through a forest filled with wonders. The rocks are real, but so is the forest. A mind trapped in scarcity only sees the rocks. A mind practicing gratitude begins to see the forest. And speaking of seeing the forest, if this exploration of the mind and the path to a more peaceful life resonates with you, if you find value in pausing and looking at the world through a different lens, then I invite you to become a part of our community here at Monk's Temple. Consider subscribing to this channel. It's a small act, a simple click, but it's a powerful way of telling yourself and the universe that you are committed to this journey, that you are choosing to walk this path of awareness. When you subscribe, you ensure that these conversations, these moments of reflection, can find their way back to you, like a gentle reminder to set down your backpack and breathe. So, if you haven't already, please take a moment now to hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to us, and it's a beautiful first step in building a daily practice of intention. Now, let's dive deeper into this ancient technology the Buddha spoke of, Katannu. The Pali word is rich with meaning. It's often translated as gratitude, but its literal sense is more like, to have a sense of what was done. It is the ability to know, to deeply acknowledge, and to remember the help, the kindness, the support, the very fabric of interconnected actions that have contributed to your existence in this very moment. Katannu is not just a feeling of thankfulness that washes over you when something good happens. Feelings are fleeting. They come and go like clouds in the sky. Katannu is a quality of the mind, a muscle that can be strengthened through exercise. It is the deep, cognitive recognition of dependence. It is the wisdom that sees that you did not, and could not, get here all by yourself. Think about the cup you might have had your morning tea or coffee in. Could you, all by yourself, have produced that cup? Could you have mined the clay, shaped it, fired it in a kiln, glazed it, and transported it to your home? Of course not. That one simple cup represents the labor, the skill, the artistry, and the logistical effort of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of people across the world and across time. There's the person who designed it, the potter who shaped it, the kiln operator who fired it, the truck driver who transported it, the store owner who sold it, and the list goes on. A grateful mind, a mind practicing Katannu, sees the cup and doesn't just see an object. It sees a tapestry of human connection. It sees kindness in the form of labor. It sees support in the form of infrastructure. This is not some abstract, philosophical idea. It is a practical reorientation of your perception. When you look at your life through the lens of Katannu, the world transforms from a collection of objects and events into a living, breathing network of generosity. Your house is not just a structure of wood and concrete. It is the culmination of the hopes, skills, and efforts of architects, carpenters, electricians, and plumbers. The food on your plate is not just fuel, it is a gift from the sun, the rain, the soil, the farmer who planted the seed, the migrant worker who harvested the crop, the truck driver, the grocer. This understanding is profoundly humbling. It dissolves the illusion of the self-made person, the solitary individual who stands alone, independent and invulnerable. That is a myth, and it's a lonely, stressful myth to live by. Katannu reveals the truth: we are all nodes in an infinite web. We are all recipients of an endless stream of giving. And when you truly see that, the natural, spontaneous response is a desire to give back. Gratitude, then, becomes the engine of generosity. We give because we have first received. We help because we have first been helped. We love because we have first been loved. Let me tell you a story from the early days of my time at the monastery. There was an old monk there, Venerable Payadasi. He was a man of few words, but his presence was like a warm, steady flame. He had a simple alms bowl, made of dark, worn wood. It was clearly old, patched in two places with metal staples. One day, a young, enthusiastic novice accidentally knocked the bowl off a shelf, and it cracked right down the middle. The novice was mortified. He burst into tears, apologizing profusely, offering to buy the Venerable a new, beautiful bowl. Venerable Payadasi just looked at the two halves of his bowl on the floor. He didn't frown. He smiled gently. He picked up the pieces and said to the novice, "No, no, my child, there is no need for tears. You have not broken my bowl. You have only given me a chance to see it more clearly." He then invited the novice to sit with him. He pointed to the wood. "This wood," he said, "was once part of a great tree. That tree gave its life to provide shelter and food for birds and insects for hundreds of years. A carpenter, whose name I will never know, shaped it with skill and care, so that a monk he would never meet could receive his daily food. For decades, this bowl has held the generosity of countless villagers, a scoop of rice here, some vegetables there. It has touched the hands of the poor and the rich, the old and the young. It has been a silent witness to thousands of meals and thousands of acts of kindness. Now, its service to me is complete. It has given all it could. And I am grateful. I am grateful for the tree, for the carpenter, for every single person who ever placed food in it, and now, I am grateful to you, for showing me that its journey has ended so beautifully." The novice sat there, stunned. His tears of shame had transformed into tears of a different kind, tears of awe. In that moment, he learned that gratitude wasn't about clinging to things, but about appreciating their story, their connection to everything else, and accepting their passing with a peaceful heart. The broken bowl became a more powerful teacher than 1,000 perfect ones ever could. Let's try something. Let's move from theory to direct experience. Right now, wherever you are, I invite you to participate in a small experiment. This is a guided reflection, a way to feel the texture of a grateful moment in your own mind and body. First, bring your attention to your breath. Just a few deep, conscious breaths. Inhale slowly, feeling your lungs expand. Exhale gently, letting go of any tension. Good. Now, I want you to think of something very simple. Think of the device you are listening to me on right now. It could be a phone, a computer, a tablet. Just bring that object into your mind's eye. Now, let's begin to trace its story, practicing Katannu. First, think of the raw materials. The glass on the screen is made primarily from sand. Imagine the immense heat and energy required to transform simple sand into the pure, precise, and perfectly smooth glass you touch every day. Think of the metals inside: copper, gold, lithium, tin. They were mined from the earth, perhaps on the other side of the planet. Imagine the men and women who worked in those mines, in often difficult conditions, to extract these materials. Think of the engineers and designers. Countless hours of human creativity, problem-solving, and collaboration went into the architecture of the tiny chip that processes these very words. They dreamed this technology into existence. Think of the factory workers in massive facilities, who assembled these thousands of tiny components with incredible precision. Think of the software developers who wrote the code, the marketers who brought it to market, the pilots and truck drivers who transported it across oceans and highways, the person in the local store who sold it, and the person who created the energy grid that powers it. All of this, a vast, silent, and mostly invisible army of human effort, converged to create this one, small object in your hand or on your lap. And for what? So that at this precise moment, a voice from a small monastery could reach you, to share these thoughts on gratitude. Now, as you hold this awareness, just notice how it feels in your body. Do you feel a warmth in your chest? A slight softening around your heart? A sense of connection, of not being so alone? This feeling, this gentle expansion of the self to include others, this warmth of recognition, that is the physical sensation of gratitude. It is the opposite of the tight, cold, isolated feeling of fear and scarcity. This is what it feels like to remember that you are part of something larger. You are supported by the world. You are held by the efforts of millions. You can do this with anything. Your clothing. The food in your kitchen. The roof over your head. The very oxygen in the air, purified by countless trees and algae, gifted to you by the planet itself. This is not just positive thinking. This is a radical practice of remembering the truth of your interdependence. In Buddhism, we talk about the 3 root poisons that contaminate our minds and are the source of all our suffering and unskillful actions. They are greed, lobha, aversion or hatred, dosa, and ignorance or delusion, moha. What's fascinating is that a well-developed practice of gratitude acts as a direct and powerful antidote to each one of these poisons. Think about greed first. Greed is the insatiable hunger for more. It's the mind state that says, what I have is not enough. I need that. And then I will be happy. Greed is a perpetual state of lack. Gratitude, on the other hand, is the mind state of fullness. When you are truly grateful for what you already have, the compulsion to acquire more loses its power. You can look at a new car with appreciation for its design, without feeling that your own car is now inadequate. You can see a friend's success and feel happy for them, without it triggering a pang of envy and a desperate need to achieve the same. Gratitude fills the internal void that greed is constantly trying to stuff with external things. It's like plugging a leak in a bucket. No matter how much water you pour in, if there's a leak of discontent, the bucket will never be full. Gratitude patches the leak. It allows you to experience the fullness that is already present. Next, consider aversion. Our anger, irritation, hatred, and fear. Aversion is the mind's recoil from unpleasant experiences, people, or things. It creates separation, walls, and conflict. How does gratitude act as an antidote here? It's challenging, but profoundly transformative. Imagine someone who has wronged you, someone who has caused you pain. Your natural reaction is aversion. You want to push them away, to condemn them. But what if you could find one single thing to be grateful for in relation to that person? Perhaps they taught you a lesson about your own strength. Perhaps their actions revealed a boundary you needed to set, teaching you about self-respect. Perhaps they showed you the kind of person you do not want to become, which is a powerful teacher in itself. Even the most difficult people in our lives are our teachers. They are the ones who provide the friction necessary for us to grow. A weightlifter doesn't get stronger by lifting feathers. They need heavy weights that challenge them. Difficult people and situations are the weights that build our spiritual and emotional muscles, muscles of patience, compassion, forgiveness, and resilience. Being grateful for the friction, for the opportunity to grow, doesn't mean you condone harmful behavior. It means you refuse to be poisoned by it. You transmute the lead of their actions into the gold of your own wisdom. Finally, delusion or ignorance. This is the fundamental misperception of reality. It's believing we are separate, independent selves, floating through a random, disconnected world. It's the root of all the other poisons. And what is gratitude but the direct confrontation with this delusion? Every single moment of genuine gratitude is a moment of seeing through the illusion of separateness. When you are grateful for the farmer who grew your food, for a moment, you and the farmer are connected in your heart. The boundary between self and other blurs. When you are grateful for the sunlight that nourishes the plants, you feel connected to the cosmos. Gratitude is the practice of seeing interdependence, which is the ultimate reality. It is the antidote to the delusion of a separate self. It brings us back home to the truth that we are all part of one magnificent, unfolding whole. There was a woman named Sarah who lived in a bustling city. Every morning, on her way to a high-pressure job she didn't particularly like, she would stop at the same coffee shop. She was always in a rush, her mind already churning through the day's tasks. She would order her latte, barely make eye contact with the barista, a young man named Leo, grab her cup, and disappear into the flow of pedestrians. To her, Leo was just a function, a cog in the machine that produced her caffeine. One day, she was forced to slow down. Her train was delayed by an hour. Annoyed, she went back to the coffee shop, which was now quiet. Leo was wiping down the counter. With nothing but time, she ordered another coffee and, for the first time, actually looked at him. She noticed the tiredness in his eyes, the gentle way he handled the espresso machine. On impulse, she asked, "Long day?" He looked up, surprised, and smiled. "Always," he said. "But I'm not complaining. This job is helping me pay for my night classes. I'm studying to be a pastry chef." A light went on in Sarah's mind. Pastry chef. That's amazing. Do you bake? Leo's face lit up. He reached under the counter and pulled out a small, slightly misshapen croissant. "I made these last night," he said, a little shyly. "It's a new recipe. They didn't turn out perfectly, so I brought them here to share. Would you like to try one?" Sarah took the croissant. It was warm, flaky, and absolutely delicious. As she ate it, a wave of emotion washed over her. She looked at Leo, not as a barista, but as a young man with a dream, working hard, getting up early, studying late, and still finding the generosity to share his imperfect first attempts with a stranger. She saw his sacrifice, his hope, his skill. In that moment, her latte was no longer just a latte. It was a gift from Leo. It was his labor, his tip money for school, his kindness. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for him. From that day on, Sarah's morning routine changed. She still got her latte, but now she made a point to really see Leo. She'd ask about his classes, his recipes. She started bringing in a pastry from a local bakery for him to try, to give him feedback. Their interactions became a small, bright spot in both their days. Sarah's gratitude for a simple cup of coffee had opened a door to genuine human connection. It didn't change her job, but it changed her experience of the start of her day. It transformed a transaction into a relationship, and in doing so, made her world a little warmer, a little more meaningful. She had practiced Katannu, and it had enriched her life in a way no promotion ever could. So, we understand the why, the profound psychological and spiritual benefits of gratitude. But the how is just as important. This isn't about waiting for a bolt of lightning to strike you with thankfulness. It's about building a practice, creating small, consistent habits that train the mind to incline toward appreciation, just as surely as water inclines to flow downhill. We are literally reshaping the neural pathways in our brains. Neuroplasticity shows us that what we practice, we become. If we practice scanning for threats and problems, our brain becomes a finely tuned problem detector. If we practice scanning for gifts and kindness, our brain becomes a gratitude detector. Let's explore a few practical, deeply personal ways to weave this practice into the very fabric of your daily life. These aren't chores. Think of them as invitations, as gentle experiments in living. 1. The dawn gratitude pause. Before your feet even touch the floor in the morning, before the mental checklist of the day begins, take just 60 seconds. As you become aware of the world, ask yourself a simple question. What is one thing I can be grateful for right now, in this very moment, before I've done anything? It might be the warmth of your blankets. It might be the silence of the early morning. It might be the fact that you woke up at all, that your heart continued its tireless work through the night. The Buddha once pointed out that the breath is a gift we often ignore until we struggle for it. So, be grateful for your breath. This simple pause sets the baseline for your entire nervous system. It's like tuning an instrument before a concert. It tells your brain, today, we will look for the good. 2. The threshold gratitude. Choose a threshold in your life, a doorway you pass through regularly. It could be the front door of your home, the door to your workplace, or even the door of your car. Each time you cross that threshold, let it be a trigger for a moment of gratitude. For example, every evening when you come home from work, pause for a second before you open your front door. As you put your hand on the handle, think of the people inside, or even just the quiet space that awaits you. Be grateful for the shelter, for the safety, for the place where you can rest. This simple act transforms a mundane action into a sacred ritual of homecoming. It reconnects you to the value of your sanctuary. 3. The meal gratitude, a deeper practice. We touched on this earlier, but let's make it a formal practice. Before you eat, just for 30 seconds, look at your food. Don't just see dinner. See a landscape. See the brown earth where the vegetables grew. See the golden sun and the silver rain that nurtured them. See the hands that planted, tended, and harvested. See the vehicle that transported them. See the person who prepared them, whether it's you, a partner, or a stranger in a kitchen. See it all as a gift. You can even say a simple phrase in your mind, I receive this food with gratitude. May its energy give me strength to live with kindness and wisdom. This practice turns a biological necessity into a moment of deep spiritual connection. It prevents mindless eating and cultivates a reverence for life. 4. The gratitude journal with a twist. You've probably heard of a gratitude journal. But let's add a twist from the Buddhist perspective. Don't just list things you're grateful for. Pick one thing from your day and write down the story of its interconnectedness. For example, instead of writing, I'm grateful for my friend's call, write a little more, today, my friend called. I'm grateful for the technology that connected us instantly across miles. I'm grateful for the friendship we've built over years of shared experiences and trust. I'm grateful that she felt comfortable enough to share her worry with me, and that I could be there to listen. Her call reminded me that I am not alone. This deeper dive takes the practice from a simple list to a meaningful narrative that strengthens the neural pathways of interdependence. 5. The unsung hero gratitude. This is a powerful one. Each day, make a conscious effort to be grateful for someone whose work is usually invisible. Thank the person who empties the trash in your office building. Leave a note for the mail carrier. Thank the bus driver. Acknowledge the person who bags your groceries and look them in the eye. These people are the threads that hold the fabric of society together, and they are almost never seen. Your gratitude, your simple act of seeing them, is a gift. But it's also a gift to yourself. It reminds you that your comfort and convenience are built on the backs of countless unseen helpers. It keeps the arrogance of the ego in check and fills your heart with humility. A man named David had a long and stressful commute to work. Every day, without fail, he would encounter a traffic jam on the highway. He would sit in his car, gripping the steering wheel, his jaw clenched, his mind a storm of frustration. He would curse the other drivers, the roadworks, the city planners, the universe itself for this daily torture. He would arrive at work already exhausted and angry. One day, stuck in his usual spot, watching a sea of red brake lights, he decided to try something different. He was at a breaking point. The frustration was making him physically ill. He took a deep breath. He looked around. He saw a father in the next car, laughing with a child in the back seat. He saw a woman singing along to music, her head bobbing. He saw the sun beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink over the concrete landscape. And then, a new thought dawned on him. A thought so simple, yet so radical. I am grateful for this traffic jam. He almost laughed at the absurdity of it. But he sat with the thought. Why could he be grateful? Because this traffic jam was the only time in his entire day when he was forced to sit still. At work, he was a whirlwind of meetings and emails. At home, he was a whirlwind of family duties and chores. But here, in his car, he had nowhere to go, nothing he could do. He was a captive audience of one. This traffic jam, this object of his hatred, was actually giving him the gift of enforced stillness. It was a daily, mandatory pause. From that day on, his commute transformed. The traffic jam became his mobile meditation hall. He would turn off the aggressive radio news and put on some quiet music or simply enjoy the silence. He would practice his breathing. He would watch the sky. He would observe the small moments of humanity happening in the cars around him. He stopped fighting reality and started accepting it. And in that acceptance, he found peace. He was still late sometimes. The traffic was still heavy. But the suffering was gone. He had learned to be grateful for the one thing he couldn't change, and in doing so, he had changed everything. The problem hadn't disappeared, but his relationship to it had been completely transformed by the alchemy of gratitude. This brings us to the most advanced, most transformative level of gratitude practice. It is easy, even pleasurable, to be grateful for the sunshine, the good meal, the kind word. This is the kindergarten of gratitude. The graduate level course is learning to be grateful for the rain, the burnt toast, the harsh criticism. It is learning to be grateful for loss, for failure, for pain. This is not about masochism. It is about wisdom. It is about understanding that in the ecosystem of a full human life, darkness is as necessary as light. A life with only sunshine would be a desert. It is the rain that brings the flowers. It is the friction that polishes the stone. It is the weight that builds the muscle. Think of a time in your life that was incredibly difficult, a heartbreak, a professional failure, a period of deep illness or grief. In the midst of it, you would never have wished for it. But now, looking back, can you see what it gave you? Did that heartbreak teach you about your own resilience, your capacity to heal? Did that failure teach you humility, or show you a new path you wouldn't have otherwise seen? Did that illness force you to slow down, to reevaluate your priorities, to appreciate the fragile beauty of health? We can be grateful to our enemies, as the Buddha suggested in the Dhammapada, because they are the ones who give us the greatest opportunity to practice patience, tolerance, and compassion. It's easy to be kind to a friend. Can you be kind to someone who is trying to harm you? That is the ultimate test of a trained heart. The person who angers you is your greatest teacher. They are holding up a mirror to your own unresolved anger and triggers. They are giving you the raw material for your own liberation. And what about grief? Grief is the price we pay for love. The depth of your grief is a direct reflection of the depth of your love. To be grateful for someone who has passed away is not just to remember the good times. It is to feel the pain of their absence and to recognize that pain as a testament to the beauty of their presence. The hole they left in your life is shaped exactly like them. That hole is a permanent reminder of the gift they were. In that way, grief itself becomes a form of gratitude, a living, breathing, aching thank you for having loved and been loved. There was once a sculptor named Kenji, renowned for his beautiful statues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas carved from fine, flawless wood. He was a perfectionist. He would spend weeks, sometimes months, selecting the perfect log, one with no knots, no cracks, no imperfections. He believed that the divine could only be represented through perfection. One day, a massive storm swept through the town. It uprooted trees and damaged homes. Among the wreckage, a farmer brought Kenji a large, gnarled piece of wood from an old, twisted tree that had fallen. It was full of knots, cracks, and wormholes. It was, by Kenji's standards, completely useless. The farmer asked him to make something, anything, from it, as he had no money to pay for a statue made from perfect wood. Kenji, out of pity, agreed. He began to work on the ugly piece of wood, but with a heavy heart. As he started to carve, he noticed something strange. The knots in the wood, which he would normally see as flaws, began to look like the swirling robes of a monk in motion. A large crack running down the side became a flowing waterfall at the statue's feet. The wormholes became the distant stars in a night sky he carved behind the figure's head. He worked with the wood, not against it. He followed its nature, incorporating its imperfections into the design. The final statue was unlike anything he had ever made. It was not a serene, still Buddha. It was a figure of immense power and movement, standing in a dynamic landscape shaped by the wood itself. It was raw, wild, and alive. It was more beautiful, more compelling, and more real than any of his perfectly polished statues. People came from far and wide to see it. They said it captured not just the piece of the Buddha, but his journey through the storms of the world. Kenji learned a profound lesson that day. He realized that his previous work, though beautiful, lacked depth. It was a representation of enlightenment untouched by the world. This new statue, born from a broken, storm-battered piece of wood, showed an enlightenment that had weathered every storm, that had incorporated every crack and scar, and had become more beautiful because of them. He learned to be grateful for the imperfect materials, for they held a deeper, more powerful truth. Our lives are that gnarled wood. Gratitude is the sculptor's hand that helps us see the masterpiece hidden within our own cracks and scars. In all this talk of being grateful for others, for nature, for situations, we must not forget one crucial element: ourselves. Many of us have a very difficult time directing gratitude inward. We are often our own harshest critics. We dwell on our mistakes, our perceived flaws, our failures. We hold ourselves to impossible standards and then beat ourselves up when we inevitably fall short. This self-criticism is a form of aversion directed inward, and it is just as poisonous as aversion directed outward. Practicing gratitude for yourself is not narcissism. It is not about having an inflated ego. It is about recognizing the incredible journey you have been on. It is about honoring the person who has gotten you through every single difficult day you have ever had. That person, you, has endured loss, disappointment, heartbreak, and fear. And yet, here you are. Still breathing. Still trying. Still showing up. Be grateful for your body. It may not be perfect by media standards. It may have aches and pains. But it has carried you through every step of your life. It has allowed you to experience sunsets and hugs, the taste of good food and the sound of laughter. It is a magnificent vehicle for your consciousness. Thank it. Be grateful for your mind. It may get anxious or sad. It may have limiting beliefs. But it has also learned, created, solved problems, and dreamed. It has the capacity for wisdom, for love, for this very reflection. Thank it. Be grateful for your past self. Think of the you from 5 or 10 years ago. That person made decisions with the information they had. They navigated challenges without the wisdom you have now. Thank that past self for their resilience, for their efforts, for getting you to this point. Send them some love. Be grateful for your mistakes. Each mistake was a tuition payment for a lesson in the school of life. Without that failed relationship, would you know what you truly need in a partner? Without that career misstep, would you have found your true path? Your mistakes are not stains on your record, they are essential chapters in your story. Thank them. This practice of self-gratitude builds a foundation of self-compassion. It allows you to meet your own imperfections with kindness rather than criticism. And from that wellspring of self-compassion, your ability to genuinely care for others becomes stronger and more sustainable. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Gratitude for yourself fills your cup. This is a story about a powerful CEO named Eleanor. She ran a massive corporation. She was brilliant, driven, and respected, but also known for being impatient and dismissive of those she considered beneath her. She saw the world in a hierarchy, and she was at the top. One evening, working late, she was alone in the vast, empty office. The cleaning crew was just starting their shift. An older man named George came in with his cart to clean her office. Eleanor barely glanced up from her papers, grunting an acknowledgement. George began his work, emptying the trash, wiping the whiteboard, vacuuming the floor. As he worked, Eleanor noticed something. He was humming softly to himself. He was careful, almost gentle, in his movements. He picked up a plant that had been knocked over and placed it back in the sunlight. He straightened a picture on her wall that was slightly askew. He treated her office with a kind of quiet reverence. Intrigued, and for once not in a rush, she put down her pen and watched him. When he finished, he gave her a warm, genuine smile and said, "Have a good night, ma'am. Get some rest." And then he was gone. Eleanor sat in her now perfectly clean office, and something shifted. She realized that in her entire day of high-powered meetings and million-dollar decisions, no one had treated her with the simple, human care that George just had. He had served her, not because he had to, but seemingly because he took pride in his work. He had brought order to her space and kindness to her evening. The next night, she waited for him. When George came in, she stood up. She introduced herself properly and asked his name. She thanked him. But it wasn't a dismissive, "Thank you." It was a heartfelt, "Thank you, George, for your work. This office is my home away from home, and you take care of it for me. I see how carefully you work. I appreciate it more than you know." George's eyes widened in surprise. Then he smiled, even more broadly than the night before. From that day on, Eleanor made a point to thank George every time she saw him. She learned about his family, his grandchildren. He became a person to her, not a function. This simple act of gratitude began to change Eleanor. It softened her edges. It made her more aware of all the invisible people who made her life and her company function. She started acknowledging the security guards, the cafeteria staff, the assistants. The shift was subtle, but those around her noticed. The gratitude she learned from a janitor in her office didn't just make George feel seen, it made Eleanor more human. It had dismantled a wall in her own heart. Gratitude is not a static emotion you hold in your heart. It is a dynamic energy that flows. When you receive a gift, a kind word, a meal, a service, and you feel genuine gratitude, you are not just the end point. You become part of a circle. Your gratitude is a gift in return. It completes the circuit. Think of the person who gave you a compliment. If you just nod and move on, the energy stops. But if you receive it with a genuine smile and a heartfelt thank you, that really means a lot. You have given them a gift in return. You have let them know their kindness landed in fertile ground. You have encouraged them to be kind again. Your gratitude reinforces their generosity. This is the social and spiritual function of saying, thank you. It's more than just politeness. It's a recognition that a gift has been given and received, and that the connection between giver and receiver is now strengthened. In Buddhism, we talk about the fruit of giving, dana. The giver receives merit, certainly. But the receiver, by receiving with a grateful heart, also plants seeds of generosity within themselves. They learn how to receive openly and gracefully, which is a skill. And learning to receive makes you more likely to give in the future, because you know from experience the joy that a genuine gift can bring. So often, we struggle to receive. We feel we don't deserve it. We feel indebted. We deflect compliments. We insist on paying our own way. This is often a form of pride, a subtle way of maintaining our independence and not admitting we need others. Gratitude requires us to be vulnerable. It requires us to admit, yes, I needed that. Yes, you helped me. And I am better for it. This vulnerability is not weakness, it is the openness of a heart that is alive and connected. Learning to receive with grace and genuine gratitude is as important a spiritual practice as learning to give. In a small village, there lived an old gardener named Tomas. His garden was legendary. It was a riot of color and fragrance, a place of peace and beauty. Children loved to peek through the fence, but Tomas was known as a grumpy man who shooed them away. He was protective of his precious flowers. One day, a little girl named Lily, no more than 5 years old, managed to squeeze through a gap in the fence. Tomas saw her and stomped over, ready to scold her. But before he could speak, Lily looked up at him with huge, wondering eyes and pointed at a single, perfect red rose. "It's so pretty," she whispered, her voice full of awe. She wasn't reaching for it. She wasn't going to pick it. She was just looking at it with pure, unadulterated appreciation. Tomas stopped in his tracks. He looked at the rose through this child's eyes. He saw its deep crimson color, the velvet texture of its petals, the way the evening light caught its curves. He had seen it 1,000 times, but he had stopped truly seeing it. The child's simple, grateful gaze had given his rose back to him. It was a gift. His anger melted. He knelt down beside Lily. "It is pretty, isn't it?" he said gently. He then took her by the hand and gave her a tour of his garden. He showed her the tiny yellow buds that would become sunflowers, the fuzzy leaves of the lamb's ear, the busy bees in the lavender. Lily's gratitude was a key that unlocked the garden for both of them. Tomas had spent years creating beauty, but it was this child's innocent appreciation that allowed him to truly receive the gift of his own work. Her gratitude completed the circle. He had given the garden, and she, in her thankfulness, had given it back to him, brand new. This might sound strange. How can we be grateful for something that hasn't happened yet? But this is a powerful practice of intention and faith. It is the gratitude of the farmer who has just planted a seed. They cannot see the plant. They don't know if rain will come. But they prepare the soil, they water it, and they act with the confident expectation that the seed will grow. This confidence, this trust in the process, is a form of gratitude in advance. It's a way of saying, thank you, to the future for the potential it holds. We can practice this for ourselves. When you are working toward a goal, take a moment to feel the gratitude for its accomplishment as if it has already happened. If you are trying to heal a relationship, sit quietly and feel the gratitude for the moment you and that person share a laugh again. If you are working on a creative project, feel the gratitude for the feeling of completion, for sharing it with the world. This isn't about magical thinking. It's about aligning your emotional state with your intention. It's about cultivating the feeling of abundance and success now, which makes you a more confident, open, and effective creator. It moves you out of the desperate energy of, I hope this works, and into the peaceful energy of, I am grateful for this unfolding. It is the ultimate act of trust in the benevolent potential of life. An elderly woman named Agnes lived in a care home. She had mobility issues and could only walk very slowly with the aid of a walker. Most of the residents saw their limited mobility as a curse, a confinement. They would complain about the pain, the slowness, the inability to go where they wanted. But Agnes had a different approach. Every afternoon, rain or shine, she would embark on her expedition. It would take her 20 minutes to traverse a hallway that others could walk in 30 seconds. But for Agnes, that hallway was not a corridor. It was a journey. She would stop to feel the texture of the bricks on the wall, grateful for their solidity. She would pause by the large window in the common area and watch the clouds for a full 5 minutes, grateful for the ever-changing sky. She would smile and nod at everyone she passed, grateful for the company, even in silence. She would notice a plant in the lobby and admire a single new leaf. One day, a younger resident, frustrated and bitter about being there, snapped at her, "How can you be so happy? We're trapped in here." Agnes just smiled her gentle smile. "My dear," she said, "my legs may be slow, but my eyes still work. My heart still works. And there is so much to be grateful for between my room and the front door. I'm not trapped. I'm on a wonderful walk, and it just happens to be a very, very long hallway." Agnes had transformed her limitation into a meditation. Her slow pace was not a prison, it was an opportunity for a deeper, more intimate encounter with the world immediately around her. She was grateful for the journey itself, not just the destination, and that gratitude filled her life with richness, even within 4 walls. We began by talking about gratitude as a quality, a practice, a lens. But where does this path lead? It leads to a place where gratitude is no longer something you do, but something you are. It becomes the natural, effortless radiance of a heart that has seen through the illusion of separation and lack. You become a living expression of thankfulness. In this state, you are grateful not because life is always good, but because life is. The very fact of existence, of consciousness, of this brief, precious opportunity to experience the universe from a unique point of view, is seen as the ultimate gift. The pleasant and the unpleasant are both recognized as passing weather in the vast sky of awareness. And for the sky itself, for the awareness that witnesses it all, you are grateful. This is the blessing the Buddha spoke of in the Maha Mangala Sutta, the greatest blessings. A grateful mind is a mind that is at peace. It is a mind that has stopped fighting reality. It has stopped demanding that life be other than what it is. It rests in the present moment, in the recognition of the countless gifts that are always already here. This journey we have taken today is not about reaching a destination. It is about taking the first step, and then the next, on a path that leads you home to yourself. The practice is simple, but it is not easy. It requires vigilance. It requires the willingness to pause, to look, to remember. So, as we come to the end of this long conversation, I leave you with a gentle invitation. For the rest of today, and perhaps tomorrow, just experiment. Not with huge, dramatic acts of gratitude. Just with noticing. Notice one thing you would normally overlook, the way the light falls on your desk, the sound of a bird outside your window, the person who held the door for you. And when you notice it, just whisper a silent thank you. Thank you for this light. Thank you for this sound. Thank you for this kindness. Watch how this small act begins to shift something inside you. Watch how the world, which may have seemed gray and mundane, begins to sparkle with small, unexpected gifts. This is the alchemy of gratitude. It doesn't change what happens to you. It changes you. And a changed you will experience a changed world. Thank you for spending this time, for walking this path with me. Thank you for your presence, your attention, and your own unique and beautiful journey. May your heart be filled with peace. May your mind be filled with gratitude. And may you recognize the countless blessings that are already yours.